So what do you do if you've got an L-shaped tear in your clothing? Well, you don't throw it away. That's not what you do. You repair, you mend it, of course. And in this video, I'm going to show you how I repair and mend this L-shaped tear and take you a bit through my thought process as well. So it hopefully will give you an idea of how better to mend your own garments as well. Welcome, my dear sewing friends. It is delightful to have you here again as always. But if you are actually just brand new, your first time here, well, welcome. My name is Evelyn Wood and I'm the creator of VintageSewingSchool.com. And here on this channel, we talk about everything garment sewing so you can get better at making your own garments. And a lot of that is actually the vintage part of it comes into vintage practices, and that includes mending and being more sustainable in our clothing practices, because you have a tear like this, right? You're not going to throw away your garment. We can easily mend and repair it. And I happen to have one right here that I'm going to mend, and I will be following some vintage instructions and we'll have a look and I'll take you through the process. So first of all though, if you haven't subscribed yet already, do check down below because YouTube likes to trick you sometimes. We'll have much more content like this coming up. Now, first of all, let's talk about why we get these L-shaped tears very quickly, and then I'll talk through a vintage book and we'll look for some guidance on how to do this, and then I'll make my own plan and actually then do the mend. I have something fun in mind, so a little bit tricky for this stripe pattern. Okay, so why do we get L-shaped mend, like these tears? They're always in little L's, right? It's the most common because of the way that the fabric is made. It's just following that form. So basically how fabric is made up, it's constructed of these yarns, and that's these little furry pieces that you see actually coming apart in the tear here. Now these are woven together. In a woven fabric, they're woven and they weave up and over this way, up and over this way. And then of course, as you might already see, it's actually tearing along these lines where the fabric is actually formed. And so the good news is that it really can't tear anywhere else except in these lines, because it's literally tearing in between these stripes, give it away, in between the yarns that come this way. So it'll only keep tearing down there or keep tearing down here. It's never going to tear anywhere else. So at least that's a little bit of a comforting thought. But let me get one of my favorite mending books to get some inspiration on how we are actually going to fix this. My favorite thrift with a needle. I love this one. You've probably seen it before if you've been here on this channel. Let's find the section on mending L-shaped tears. It is in the darning section, of course, and I love this. It's called Darning and Art. I think so. Okay, here we go. Let's have a close look at what they recommend. So our tear here is this, obviously our L shape. And so they have the darning stitches, which I'll show you how I'm doing these in a minute, going across the tear this way and across the tear this way, and extending past further, because remember, we need some support and structure at the ends here, because that is where it will continue to tear as well. And it's very important to notice that the darning is going across. It's not going with the length of it. We're going across the tear each direction. And so of course, they're recommending here to do little hand stitches, of course, because this is like, you know, 1943 or whenever this book was published, I forget. 1954, other way around. Okay, so here is my plan. First of all, I always look at what the requirements are for the garment. If it is a dinner dress that you wash very infrequently, it would be very different on how you would mend it, as opposed to, say, a work uniform that gets thrown in the washing machine and needs something more heavy duty. There's going to be different requirements and different ways that you would handle each of the situation, and of course the fabric that it is. This is a cotton or probably poly cotton work shirt. This is not mine. This is somebody else's I'm mending for them. And so I know this item is work shirt. I know the person, whoever owns this, is going to just be throwing it in the washing machine and needs it to withstand that sort of treatment day, like heavily washed and on just a normal machine cycle. So it needs to be pretty heavy duty. So I'm going to modify what they talked about in the book here a little bit, and what I'm thinking I'm going to do is because it's a work uniform. You don't want it to stand out too much either. So I have something sneaky in mind. I'm going to do my usual backing, and I'll get to this in a minute as I go through. Backing to neaten it, and back it to trim it to support it with some interfacing, and then we'll go to the darning. And with the darning, what I think I'm going to do is actually try and darn it in the color rows to maintain these stripes that are happening on here. So that will be, I'll have to go see what colors I have. Fingers crossed I have the right colors. But first of all, let's prepare all this first before we get to that part. First things first is to always neaten up and get rid of any fluffy bits that are hanging out. Now it's very important, don't cut any threads that are already intact, because then you'll just be breaking more and make it more prone to fraying even more. So don't cut any that are intact, but just trim off any fraying parts and give it a press to neaten it out first. Now that it's all neat and tidy, I do what I call a mending band-aid or a mend aid on the back. Now it's not very traditional, but it does, I think, for our modern way of washing and wear is appropriate, and I know it is for this one. So it's just some interfacing on the back, cut out to basically fuse together the tear back down and actually back this fabric with something that it can hold to and just give it more structure and withstand washing. So I'm putting a little patch on the back there of some fusible interfacing, being very careful to fuse it all the way closed, and then I can get to the darning. But first of all, let's see what colors that I have to choose from. So with a mend like this, it is really make or break with that ironing on of the patch at the back. You really notice that I sort of pulled it in to close those gaps and make it look perfect, because the darning stitches are just there as structure over the top of something like that. So it's got to look really good then. Spend a lot of time getting that right before you glue it down permanently, otherwise the whole thing's ruined. Okay, so lucky enough I found some thread colors. I mean, I don't really have aqua because who has aqua, right? I certainly don't anyway, but I think this one's close enough. So I'm going to thread these up and actually just start doing my machine darning stitches, which are just straight running stitches over this in each of the color in the stripes. If you're just doing one color, you just do the whole thing nice and easy. I'm making it difficult for myself. So let's get into this first. So first up, I'm all set up with white, and what I'm going to do is do all of the stripes, both crossways, and I'm going to cheat a little bit and do some of them lengthways along with the tears, only because I'm trying to keep my color check scheme going. First up is white, then I'll do the aqua darning stitches, and then I'll finish up with the navy ones on top after that. And then I might have to come back and just fix up any little parts just to make these checks look nice. But the darning stitches are super easy. It is just running stitches backwards and forwards on your machine and just a little back stitch to start and stop like always. Okay, well, I only encountered one major hurdle along the way, so I'm calling it a win. I'm all done. I did give it a press. Can you see where it is? Yeah, of course you can. But actually, I'm really happy with how it turned out. The only problem was that my navy thread ended up being, well, too navy. It was really dark, and so I did my first row of stitching, and I decided to leave it as is rather than continue the navy stripes all of the way. And I just decided to end it at the very end so it sort of looks balanced, and to help just stop that end through there. So it's all solid, it's not going anywhere, but I thought visually the dark would just make it stand out way more than it needed to, so I called it there. What do you think? Call it a win? Had I known that I wasn't going to do the navy all the way, I would have paid a little bit more particular attention to some of those different colors, but you know, oh well. So you can see how easy this would be, particularly if you only had one color to deal with. That would make it so much easier. And you can easily do this on any mending repair that you need on any garment. Just be careful, choose your color wisely, and you can hide those tears and mend your garment and make it last longer. It's one of the most sustainable things we can do. And very importantly, would you have done the same here? Would you have continued with the navy? Or would you have gone to the shop and bought a different colored navy to finish it off? Now that I really want to hear down below. Thanks so very much for watching, and until next time, my friends, happy sewing. Bye.